From Acton Town to Wimbledon, from Brixton to beyond, come love your London with us and sing with us this song. There's no more smog, but we've a vlog to brighten up your day. Come love your London with us, from Kew to Haringey. Come out with us and play, love your London, have a banana.
Welcome to a brand new series, Bayswater and Notting Hill. In today's episode of Love Your London, we start off in Bayswater, where we'll be talking about the distinct architecture, as well as one house which holds an interesting secret. Bayswater is somewhere where punk rock stars could pretend to be royal mistresses, where both Albanians and Austrians have left their mark over the years, and where you used to be able to buy a pint of fleas, as long as it wasn't stolen first by a member of the Rolling Stones. All will become clear in this episode. But first, as always, we start at the local station, Bayswater. Welcome to a brand new series. We're in Bayswater and Notting Hill. This is a four-parter. The first two episodes are going to be on Bayswater. Then the third episode, we're going to be doing all that whole Portobello market stuff, and there's so much of interesting stuff to tell you. And then on the fourth day, we'll be doing mainly the western part of Notting Hill. Actually, there's going to be an extra 2 episodes, so 6 in all. The Grenfell Tower disaster and the shocking injustices faced by the local residents and those affected will have an episode all of its own. Plus, there will be a 6th episode, which will be a special, all about the area's countercultural impact, where we'll be talking in depth about not only how Greg Sams and his brother Craig put their mark on the area in the 1960s and 70s, and in fact well into the 90s, but also how the whole Republic of Frestonia movement took off. But we start off as we always do here in Bayswater. By the way, have you noticed our new microphones? That's all thanks to donations that have been received from yourselves over the years now. So we've actually got one of these roadie things, Rhodes. So thank you very much. Please do be our patrons, and remember to subscribe and to comment on our videos and to like and to share. Share's the most important thing. Just please do. But anyway, I'll just wait here for a second so you can hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. If you've already hit it, of course, then don't hit it again, because then you'll unsubscribe. Right, so here we are, we're in Bayswater, and this is on the District and Circle line, and it's in Zone 1, Fair Zone 1. It used to be known as Bayswater Junction many years ago, in 1868 when the station opened, and it's had a couple of name changes since, but it has been Bayswater since the late 1940s. So now on your screen you'll see now this amazing painting by Walter Sickert. That's from 1916, and as you can see it says Queen's Road, Bayswater, on the left hand side, and that's because this road here, Queensway, the one that we're on at the moment, used to be called Queen's Road after Queen Victoria, who was born in Kensington Palace just around the corner from here. The road was named Queensway, and the station went back to its original name of Bayswater. And the Whiteleys thing that you can see on your screen, that actually refers to a shopping centre. We're going to be talking a bit about that later, or rather a former shopping centre, but that's quite an interesting place. At the moment we're just 100 metres from Queensway station, which we're going to be checking out in a moment, which means that this serves as an OSI, an outer station interchange. However, unfortunately, there are no toilets. And I don't know about this person here, but it's not accessible either. So, I mean, if she lives here, she can't actually use the station at all. This is not accessible, and in fact, and this is really bad, all the stations that we're visiting in all 4 episodes on Bayswater to Notting Hill have no step-free access and no toilets. So it's an awful area, really, to live in if you are in a wheelchair and you cannot use escalators or stairs. So do please sort it out. I mean, it's not as if this station is even it's not even listed or anything, even though the top bit has an interesting flat roof. I think they were expecting to actually build flats on top of that, and shops and stuff. They never got round to it, but that's quite unusual to have a very short flat roof, especially in an area like this, which is so up and coming in lots of different places, and they can build up to it, but it's never been built. So yeah, just put a lift in, for goodness sake. Hadi Khan, just sort it out. And the powers that be. It's shocking because there really is no excuse. It was refurbished by Metronet as recently as 2006, so they really had the chance then to do it. Anyway, you'll be hearing a lot of boos in this series. So now the most notable thing to happen at this station happened in 2017. And there's a Scottish man called Alan Carr. Alan. He was coming down from Edinburgh, he was he's still alive as far as I know, schizophrenic, but he was down on day release to see his mum here in London, who was also schizophrenic and also in an asylum. Now, unfortunately, no one really knows why. When he got here to come and meet his mum down from Scotland, he met another Alan. Actually, he wasn't another. Well, it sounds a bit like one of those Alan Partridge jokes, isn't it? In Aha, where Alan Partridge meets another Alan, or an Alain, because this was a French Alan, which is also a joke that Alan Partridge made, or Steve Coogan rather.
Knowing me, Alan Partridge. Knowing you, Alan Perdry, another Alan Partridge. Aha.
Anyway, so Alan Carr met a French Alan, whose name was Alain Legengard. Now, Alain was coming here to go to a job interview, he had his interview, was on the platform, and Alan Carr, the Scottish guy, just came up, pushed him off the platform onto, under a train. He... Fortunately, French Alan, he curled up into a fetal position, and it was amazing. He didn't get electrocuted, to be honest, because you know what those tracks are like. But he fell between the rails, and he stayed like that. This is a family channel, so I'm not going to say the terrible damage that it did to his back and everything. But basically. Alan Carr just then left the station, right past us the CCTV, didn't care, not a care in the world, eventually got caught, obviously. But Alan, he didn't get the job, he was scarred for life. I mean, physically and mentally. He has, as far as I'm aware, he's never been able to not just return to the station, but never actually even be able to use this part of the railway network. And in fact, I do believe. If he does come back to this station, he wouldn't be able to use it anyway, because I think he's also got quite a bad disability. Anyway, so that is a horrific story about what happened here in the station. It's going to be very cheery, though, the rest of this series, so don't worry. But I had to explain that, because that really is the most important thing that's really ever happened to this station. Someone in the comment will say, oh, how could you possibly not mention this or that? Do apologise. We have done our research. 72 pages of research here. 24,000 words. It's a lot of work, I've been up for days and days. I mean, there's like several pages in each page here. There you go. There's that nice picture of the what's it. Look at what's got to come. Wow. Right. So. So what about the name Bayswater? Where does that come from? It's a strange name, isn't it? There are a couple of different hypotheses about it. It's had that name since at least 1659, where it appears as Bayswater. Before then, in 1380, we see the name in legal documents as being Bayard's watering place. So we have two different consensus on what Bayard refers to. We have no real way of knowing which one it is. In fact, there was a heated debate about it in Notes and Queries journal back in the 1800s. One possibility is that Bayard is Middle English for a bay-coloured horse. So this could be a place where bay-coloured horses were watered. The water would have come, of course, from Westbourne Brook. Or perhaps, more likely, a particular bay-coloured horse named Bayard was watered here. The other version is that it was named after Baynardus, who was a Norman conqueror.
And he actually owned what is now Bayswater Fields, and he even had a castle here. And I personally think that that latter argument is the most convincing, because why should a watering hole be used just for bay-coloured horses? And why would that one horse be so important if it was a horse named Bayard? We're on Queensway at the moment. We're going to be visiting the northern part of Queensway, or the old Queens Road as it used to be known, later on in this episode. But we're first of all going to head towards the south, towards Queensway Station as well, and maybe talk about a couple of things that we'll be seeing along the way. Come with us. Well, here we are at the very famous Queen's Ice Rink. It is London's oldest permanent ice rink. Now, we're not going to go on the ice today, and if you want to see Sharon on the ice, you can see episode 6 of our Alexandra Palace episode. And we're not going to be playing curling either, which is something else they do, because you can see us do that in episode 10 of our Angel series when we visited Granary Square near King's Cross. But there's been a lot of famous people who skated in here, including Jimi Hendrix. Though apparently the staff had a lot of difficulty in finding shoes big enough for him, but he was only a size 11. So I think maybe shoe sizes have maybe changed in the last few years, because I'm a size 12, and you can nowadays they stock up to size 14 in there. So he'd have, if he was still with us today. Obviously that can't happen. You'll find out why in an episode later on, where we actually see where poor Jimmy met his final and fairly controversial demise. That won't be in this episode. But yes, but obviously shortly before then he was in here skating. Now the irony is Hendrix is of course there are quite a few famous ice skaters called Hendrix from Belgium. In fact, it's spelt Hendricks. Jorik Hendrix and Lorena Hendrix. But there you go. Two other skating Hendrixes. Definitely no relation, as you can see. Hendrix was black and they are white. But that does bring me on to another interesting thing. Before this was known as Queen's Road, or Queensway, and before then Queen's Road, it was known as Black Man Lane. And before then it was known as Black Lion Lane. And that's after the Black Lion pub, which would have been on that corner over there. It's now this horrible, well, I suppose it's not horrible, but it's horrible because there used to be a pub there, and for me that's horrible. This office block and round to the left, there used to be a lovely old pub there. On your screen there you can see what the pub used to look like. The Black Lion was a very historical pub. In 1803, it's actually where the Paddington Volunteers were recruited from in order to fight off a Napoleonic invasion. And it was called the Black Lion since about the mid-1700s, and prior to then, it was called the Oxford Arms. Such a shame it's gone, because the Spirit Pub Company, which owned the bar, or the pub, ended up selling it to the developers for £27 million, which was a record for a central London pub. It is cheaper than the City Pride in Canary Wharf, which sold in 2008 for £32 million. But we'll talk about that when we get to C for Canary Wharf. But anyway, just around here we have Queensway Station. Now, I'm not going to say hardly anything about Queensway Station, to be honest. All I can say is that it opened in 1900 as Queen's Road, but then in 1946 it was renamed Queensway, like the road itself, which made things a lot less confusing. It's in Zone 1 as well, of course, and it's on the Central Line. And that means that it's one of those stations that open 24 hours on the weekends. And of course, as I said before, as I said before, I just run into you. He just ran into me, and he didn't even apologise. As I said before, this station has no toilets and no disabled access. But I've already said all that. We'll move on. There's nothing more to say about this station. So we're going to be heading east in a minute, but we need to take you west first of all, because there's a square here named after someone who was instrumental in what Bayswater looks like today, Orme Square, which was named after the artist and city planner Edward Orme. And here we are at Orme Court, obviously named after him. There's an Orme Square in the middle of these gorgeous buildings. Here we are inside, in the middle of Orme Court. Get up. In the middle of Orme, in the middle of Orme Court, there is. Sorry about that. In the middle of Orme Court. In the middle of Orme. In the middle of Orme Court, there is a. Sorry, in the middle of Orme Square. Sorry, he's getting me all confused. In the middle of Orme Square, there's an Orme Court. No, in the middle of Orme Court, there's an Orme Square. Oh, sorry. That's it. That's in the middle of Orme Court. There's Orme Square, which is out over there. That's not actually square. Talking a bit louder because there's a slight disturbance across the road. And as you can see, we've got these gorgeous buildings either side of it. We've also got, in this area, we've got an Orme Lane just behind those buildings over there. And that gate that you can see over there, that's called Orne Gate. So who is Orne? Well, this square and the surrounding buildings were built in conjunction with the builder Wright Ingle in the 1820s and 1830s in this fabulous Regency style. There's lots of different types of buildings, and we'll see his work all around Bayswater. He was actually most famous for his engravings and paintings, and had quite a few shops around London where he sold his artwork. However, it was property development where he mainly made his fortune, and this is just one of the many developments that he was involved with. But let's now go east for a bit, because hopefully we won't bump into that gentleman over there, but let's just go head east a bit, because there's quite a bit more to show you. So we are here at the Grand Royal Hotel. Lovely old building. Used to be called the Inverness Court Hotel. Now the Grand Royal, as you can see, it's grade 2 listed. Well, you wouldn't be able to see that, but you can imagine that it should be probably more than grade 2 listed, but such a beautiful building. There is a little bit of confusion about when exactly it was built and exactly who for. We do know that it was a private residence until 1966. And there is one legend that it was originally built in 1907 for Edward VII's mistress, Lillie Langtry, believe it or not, as in the son of Queen Victoria, that Queensway is, of course, named after. Now, is it true? I'm not so sure if it's actually that true, to be honest. I know that the hotel likes to play on that myth, mainly because the building appears to predate 1907. So probably wasn't built for his mistress in 1907. It was probably built for Louis Spitzel, who made all his money gun running in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905. The money from which he spent on possibly this house, as well as starting in 1906, which was the year he dies, the Reliance Motor Transit Company, which was part of the Motor Car Emporium. Which used to build buses, was often sued, and the company ended up being struck off the register in the 1920s. Anyhow, that's a massive tangent. And this hotel may, of course, have nothing to do with Louis Spitzel after all. The hoteliers, as I said, are very keen on the whole Eddie and Lillie Langtry story. And I do rather love this photo you can see on your screen now. Taken in 1984 of Poison Ivy and Lux Interior of the Cramps. It was taken by the photographer Steve Pike shortly before they went on stage at the Hammersmith Palais. Steve Pike was certainly told at the time by the hotel staff that it was the same bath that Eddie and Lillie Langtry themselves bathed in. Lux sadly died in 2009, but Poison Ivy is still alive today, aged 71. And just in case she ever sees this video, after all, we do have a small psychobilly following since our special on the Ace Cafe, and of course talking about King Kurt in episode 3 on Battersea to Clapham Junction. Well, yes, it was definitely Eddie and Lillie's private bathtub. Now, we're not going to go inside and bother them. I'm sure they won't appreciate us going in there. But if you wanted to see what it looks like in the interiors, all you have to do is look at Amy Winehouse's music video, In My Bed, from 2004, which was filmed inside. And there you can see what the reception looks like, as well as one of the bedrooms and more luxe interiors. Ha! Anyhow, there is only one luxe interior, of course, him. Gosh, I mean, look how much research we do. All this research, people staying in bars and stuff. Just subscribe, you know what to do. Subscribe, share. This is going to be an interesting episode. There's going to be a lot of music references, by the way, in all 4 of these episodes. This is a very musical area. But now let's go on to the next place. Right, so if I say the name George Castriotti to you, you probably don't know who I'm talking about. But if I say the name Skanderbeg to you, hopefully you do. I mean, you definitely will do if you're Albanian. I don't know if we've got any Albanian viewers. I'm sure we must have. I'll have to check our stats. But anyhow, you're now going to learn all about Skanderbeg, because it's this fine-looking gentleman over here. Quite strange, in fact, but he's here. And not sort of like near the Albanian embassy or somewhere perhaps more appropriate, but here he is, George Castriotti Skanderbeg, the invincible Albanian national hero and defender of Western civilization. Now, of course, we have famous Skanderbegs all over the place. And if you go to Albania, you'll see a Skanderbeg Square and the Skanderbeg football stadium. But who was he? What's he doing here? Well, in a nutshell, he was the feudal lord of Albania, and he led a rebellion against the Ottoman Empire in what is today, well, basically, Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, Greece, Serbia and Montenegro. And it was actually the conquered Ottoman Turks who named him Iskender Bey, meaning Alexander the Leader. Skander, as you see, is Albanian for Alexander. Now, unfortunately for the Albanians, the Ottoman Empire conquered Albania again. As for what he's doing here, well, basically quite a lot of Albanians live here in Albania. That's why they chose this location in 2012 to represent 100 years of Albanian independence. As I did say earlier, I do think it's a fairly odd location. It would be far better probably to put it in Pimlico, where the Albanian embassy is. And in fact, the largest Albanian community in London is definitely around the Green Lanes area. But I do imagine that perhaps a lot of the very many Turks who live there may not be as keen. So now we're just going to go to, just down here, Porchester Gardens. A couple of very interesting things to show you. Over here, as you can see, look at these lovely buildings here. These are more fantastic Edward Orme buildings. Not interested in them, really. Much more interested in this one over here. This is number 23, Porchester Gardens. Obviously, probably before the war, it probably would have looked a bit more like that over there. In fact, this area was bombed quite a lot during World War I and II. Do you know why this building is so important? Number 23, Porchester Gardens. This was the very first building, this house, in London to have electricity. Number 23. Yes. No, they're interested. You didn't know that, did you? Cool. There you go. Got a thumbs up. So, yeah, this was the very first building to have electricity in the whole of London. That's because the person who lived there was Rooks E.B. Crompton. And he was one of the pioneers of electrical lighting, not just in London, but really in the whole world. And he lived here. Obviously, as I said, it would have looked quite a lot different. I'm almost keen on knocking on their door, but I don't know. I just wonder if they know that house was the very first. Now, as you can just see on your screen there, we're on the corner of the famous old Whiteley's shopping centre. We're going to talk quite a lot about that when we get underneath that clock over there. But before we do that, just wanted to show you here the Outer Boar Supermarket, 116. Used to be a post office, actually, 116A. Used to be just there, that flat. And that flat is where Alexis Korner used to live. Now, he was the so-called father of British blues. He lived here with his family, and it was he who first befriended Brian Jones, one of the very original members of the Rolling Stones. And in fact, the Rolling Stones may never have happened if it weren't for Alexis Korner. Alexis Korner shared a flat with Brian Jones just round the corner at number 4 Burnham Court on Moscow Road. But he would often pop in there for a cup of tea and whatever.
And souvenirs, by the look of it.
And souvenirs, yes, certainly souvenirs from far away.
Great value.
Yeah. Now, I haven't finished yet. Now, here's a little bit of interesting trivia. 116 Queensway, which is the name of that place, features in an old Nederbeat song, which was recorded in 1968 by the obscure Dutch band Kubi and Blizzards.
116 Queensway, that's where I'm going to.
And now there's a link in the YouTube description. So how is that for research? Now this track has only had 200 or so listens on YouTube. That is how much research we do. So
a lot of our videos only have about 200 and so views.
Absolutely. So just please just keep sharing, share.
Quality
anyway,
is number one.
This is the Whiteley. Now this used to be. No, I don't want to hold this.
Hands, just a minute.
I don't want to hold this.
You don't have to hold it for long. I've just got to adjust myself. Ladies have to adjust themselves occasionally too.
Okay.
TMI.
Right.
TMI.
So here we are. See this beautiful clock, 1863. Brian Jones, who I just mentioned, one of the original members of the Rolling Stones, was in fact working here in Whiteley's. He used to, Brian Jones was actually fired from here for stealing. But that's not why this thing is famous. We are going to talk about it. Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols. He used to work here as well. So I mean, a lot of famous music stars used to work here and steal here.
Apparently. Yes. Get your music career started by working at Whiteley's nicking. He
was also fired, as I think I'm not sure if he was Madness's drummer, Dan Woodgate. He also works here in the shopping centre. There's a lot of famous people, as you can see, and look at the interior. It's absolutely
well. I don't think we can. I think that's the point.
There's a hotel and a gym.
The hotel will be in the corner there.
Yeah.
Of Reedham Place. And then you're going to have right in the corner of Porchester Gardens.
Right.
You have a gym.
Yeah.
A third space.
Yeah.
And you're going to have Everyman Cinema. So you can have retail shops on both sides.
Yeah.
Once it's ready, so people can go through, have a sit down.
Fantastic.
Have a coffee, and then have a discuss about the world.
And when will it open?
As soon as. They're working on it now, yeah.
Wow.
They're doing the finishing bits, yeah.
Let me give you our little card so you can see our YouTube channel.
Okay, fantastic.
This used to be William Whiteley Limited Department Store, and we'll be going to be talking about William shortly. He was a fascinating character, and it opened in 1911, and together with Harrods, Selfridges and Liberties, this was one of London's 4 main department stores. Now, there were shops all the way up this street belonging to William Whiteley originally, since the 1860s. Now, as often happens when people buy up lots of shops and take over a whole street, a lot of the local small businesses were quite annoyed at the time because people were coming here because they could get everything they wanted. And there were in fact quite a few fires that happened here in the 1880s that were a little bit sus. But as you know, the things happen. Queen Victoria absolutely loved this place, and she granted the place an unsolicited royal warrant. Now, by unsolicited, what I mean is that whereas these days a member of the royal family buys a product and the manufacturers then apply to the royal family to get a royal warrant, something when it's unsolicited, it's when the monarch actually herself or himself decides on his or her own free will to just grant a royal warrant, and that's how much Queen Victoria loved this place. Now we just heard from Brian, who was talking about all the retail space that they're opening in here, but it's not just retail space, it's also going to be
Luxury flats!
Of course it is. And when I say luxury, I am not joking. Many of the properties have in fact already been sold. You can still purchase a penthouse flat for just £29 million. There's also a service charge, but it is yours until 3021. So
Yeah, but our civilization's not going to last that long.
that is true. That is true. In 3021, the freehold runs out, and that's when you have to hand the lease back over to our alien overlords. Obviously, the penthouse is going for £29 million, but there are other flats that are more affordable, such as the four-bed. There's one four-bed flat here going for £19,750,000.
It's a thing of beauty. Look at this.
I know, yes.
Look at that. Look at that. Yeah.
Yep.
And the one after. Wow.
There's quite a lot of properties that haven't sold yet. I think they were hoping to have sold a lot more, but with the sanctions on the Russian oligarchs, sales have been a lot slower than they were expecting, though I do believe quite a lot of them have been sold to the families in Brunei. In fact, Brunei families own quite a lot of Bayswater, an awful lot, loads of it, not just flats in here, but all the way, lots of those lovely old houses are owned by Brunei. As you can see up there, you've got a lot of that is the original facade. And I'm just going to now show you on Google Earth what it looked like really not that long ago, like a year or so ago, and as you can see, it's all gutted in the middle. Obviously it now looks fantastic, and this is in fact an example of what we call facadism. It's kept the original facade very tastefully, to be honest, I must say, and the original statues and that sign that we saw earlier. We've seen quite a few poor versions of facadism, such as when we went around Whitechapel. There's a link obviously in the description as always. But where did all this madness start? Obviously it didn't just start here in the Whiteleys. He built up an empire, and we're going to have a little look at where it all started, which is just around this corner. The very first Whiteley's property, which is number 31 Westbourne Grove. Now, this really is the place to be if you're into fine dining, or if you're into trying lots of different types of food. Here we have Cramps. Here we have a Lebanese restaurant called Grillandia. And here we have an Indochina restaurant, Banana Tree. Every single restaurant, here we have Sadaf, which is apparently the finest Persian cuisine. And it's just next to a Turkish place, Lokanta, the authentic Turkish barbecue. And it is Lokanta in particular, which is mostly of interest here, because it was here where William Whiteley started his empire. So Whiteley was born in 1831 in Yorkshire. He came to London with just £10 in his pocket and a head full of ambition. He took on a few apprenticeships. He didn't smoke or drink, so by the early 1860s, aged 30-something, he'd managed to save £700, which would have the purchasing power today, with today's inflation, of about £14,000. So well done, William. He used that money to buy this house here, number 31 Westbourne Grove, and he opened something called a fancy goods shop. In other words, a drapery. He had 3 members of staff, 2 serving girls and a delivery boy, and he went on to marry Harriet, one of the girls, a few years later. Anyhow, he ended up being able to acquire, over the following 12 years, a load of shops in the area, which ultimately all became part of the massive Whiteley's Emporium that we just saw. By 1875, he owned an entire unbroken row of shop fronts. Now, locals were furious, and in 1876, they staged a chavirari. I know we're never know how to pronounce that, because I know our American viewers call it a chavari, but I think it's a charivari. How do you pronounce it? Charivari or charivari. I think some people call it a charivari. Anyway, it's when people really want to shame
someone in their community, they build an effigy, and they go down the streets and making noise with tin pans and stuff. I think they call them like a Tiroler in Spain. We don't know whether it's chirivery or charivery. Maybe you can let us know in the comments. We'll call it a skimmington, because that's another name for it. Hang on, not so fast. And as I said, they would have burnt a thing around. Sharon? You see, we're an educational channel. Anyhow, he wasn't really bothered about his skimmington, though eventually in 1907 he was murdered here in Bayswater by someone who said that he was his illegitimate son, though this was never actually proven. And I have here's a obituary taken from the 1907 Albuquerque Evening Citizen, of all places. Now the reason I'm digging this out is because there's a particularly funny anecdote to it, here in it. I'm going to read this out to you. It was his boast that he could supply anything ordered at his establishment, and many were the attempts made to challenge the accuracy of this assertion. An elephant, a second-hand coffin, and most curious of all, a pint of fleas were among the goods that he called on to provide. Were among the goods that he was called on to provide, and in each case the order was duly filled. I don't say the fleas were in stock, he would say when interrogated on this point, but they were procured. So basically he used to say, did you get hold of anything? And a lot of people would troll him. A lot of very rich locals would say, right, okay, let's put this to the test. And they would pay quite a lot of money for their pint of fleas and their elephant and their second-hand coffins, but he always fulfilled. And that was his promise, that he would always get hold of anything that he was asked for, no matter how unusual. And of course, that was the promise that sort of made him so famous, because people knew, well, I need to buy something, so may as well come here. I could just see him. I did mention he had a boy and two girls working for him, and I can just see him sending the boy around the East End of London, collecting fleas and putting them in a pint jar to then sell. What on earth they would have made of that. I do love that story. As for the second-hand coffin, I guess I'll leave that one up to your wild imaginations. But anyway, as you can see, it's now a Turkish restaurant. Actually, one of these days, I really would love to visit this place, which is an Austrian restaurant. It's a very, very famous. This place has been open for so long. It's nice to see one that stays there. Now, it is meant to be in here an absolute hoot. As you can see, it's called the Tiroler Hut. And it's a stalwart of the London dining scene. It's been run by the same guy, Joseph, from Salzburg, since 1967. He's now well into his 80s, I think. He may be older than that. Funnily enough, like the previous owner of this area, he also married an employee, or rather the sister of his waitress. You can see it's a waitress they're looking for now. They're still together to this day, the waitress's sister, and they're often in there entertaining the guests. In fact, old Joseph often brings out his accordion and starts playing, serenading the tables. It's meant to be an absolute hoot. He plays the saxophone as well, and the keyboards and the cowbells. And so many famous people have gone in here. Dennis Quaid, Kate Moss, Jarvis Cocker apparently is in here all the time. £50 a head, not including drinks. So we really can't afford this sort of thing by now. I was really hoping that we could. I was hoping that we'd have reached thousands of subscribers by now, but we're not. We're still it's kind of plateauing a bit.
That's because we're kind of shit. Crash zoom! Got a crash zoom on the Tristán.
No. Come on. We're not. We're an educational channel. We're an educational channel. Good to say. Right.
Okay, enough. Let's go to the next
I've
thing.
almost finished this bit.
All right.
I mean, just look how much research we did. We even looked in the Albuquerque Evening Citizen, trying to find out about pints of fleas and stuff like that. We're so entertaining. We do so much research. Just reward us. Just like share us, whatever. Anyway, so we're now going to make our way back slowly towards Baywater Road, because we have a couple of more surprising things to show you along the way.
everybody.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Joseph.
Lovely to meet you, Joseph.
Hello. I don't know where you are, so...
I'm here.
Oh, that's you, Tony.
Yeah, by the way, it's always good to know about these things. Lovely toilets here, and they're completely free, which is unusual. I've just been down there. It's very clean. Lots of cameras though, so I imagine that was a bit weird. But yes, so we're just going to walk now towards Porchester Terrace. There's quite a few places to show you around there. Famous people have lived there. But first of all, I just want to point this pub out. This is the Porchester. It used to be known as the Royal Oak, and in fact the station, Royal Oak Station, got its name from the pub. It's one of those occasions where a pub has actually given its name to a station. There's many others. There's the Angel. There's of course Elephant and Castle, which has nothing to do with the Infanta de Castilla, as some people joke. But the Porchester, it's a shame they changed its name in 2008 from the Royal Oak to the Porchester. We'll actually be seeing in the next episode, we'll be seeing the station of Royal Oak, but this is just so you'd sort of like know roughly the pub that it was named after. Right, so now we're going to walk through this estate now, and it's actually a very interesting estate. Now you remember in episode 8 of our series on Angel and Islington, we visited the Finsbury Health Centre, which was designed by Berthold Lubetkin, which was Grade 1 listed.
Mummy, can we watch something from the lovely London archives? Please!
It's time for bed, innit?
Hey, so we are here at the Pine Street Medical Practice, Finsbury Health Centre, one of the most important buildings in the whole country. Let's check it out. This is fantastic. Here we are, the Finsbury Health Centre.
Oh, it's still here. I thought they were going to pull this place down.
No, they would never. They can't pull this.
Oh boy,
This is.
I know it's listed.
It's not just listed. This is Grade 1 listed.
Oh boy.
This has the same
Up
listed.
there with all the royal palaces.
It is. It's the same as St Paul's Cathedral. It's the same as the Palace of Westminster. There aren't very many of them. This is an amazing building. Probably one of the most important buildings to have been built in the last 100 years in the entire country. Certainly the most important building to have been built in the first half of the 20th century. We almost wanted to look forward to being ill just to come in here because it's amazing. Now this entire estate is Grade 2 listed. It's not Grade 1 listed. But it's very large, I suppose, so like it's probably be quite a big deal to do it, to make that Grade 1 listed. So I'm glad to say that this estate, which was built in the 1950s, will not be torn down like so many other parts of Bayswater have been torn down over the years. And we were talking earlier about the Albanians, but we talked about Skanderbeg, and this is where quite a lot of the Albanian community also live, as well as a lot of local people as well, as in a lot of British people as well. It's a very multicultural area, and it's fantastic. I mean, they're so lucky to be living in Lubetkin's designed buildings. They must be fantastic inside. And it's called the Hallfield Estate. So we're just going to walk down there on our way to the next place, which is number 23, Leinster Gardens.
Here's a tune about old Berthold Lubetkin, a geezer with vision, no messin'. In Bayswater town, there's a sight to behold. The Hallfield Estate, it's a story untold. With triangles and angles, it's quite a display. Them Albanians love it, and they're here to stay.
Oh, Berthold Lubetkin, architectural king. We'll love your London, and your praises will sing.
From Russia he came with constructivist flair, built penguin pools and flats with such care. His buildings are listed grade 1, don't you know? A legacy that'll forever grow and grow.
Oh, Berthold Lubetkin, architectural king. We'll love your London, and your praises will sing.
Oh, so we're here on Leinster Gardens. Check this place out. Fantastic. More Orme buildings. Let's go and say hello to these people here. That doesn't sound very wooden. That is not a door. If we come here a little bit. Number 24, which looks very similar. That is a door. But as you can see, there's no windows here at all. I wonder why. Let's pop round the back. Let's pop down Hallfield Gardens, just to our south, next to the Swedish restaurant Pushbangen, and we'll see why. There's quite a lot of embassies around here. We've got here the Uruguayan embassy, and we also have the Peruvian embassy and Lao embassy as well, all on this road here. As you can see, there's the Peruvian flag just up there. But what we really want to show you is what that looks like from the other side. That very strange frontage. And here is your answer. As you can see, there is no house. Can you just see that? That is a very, very, very early example of facadism. And as you saw just now, that train going past, basically the circle and the district line, which passed right underneath us, that's a culverted railway. Obviously it was originally part of the normal Metropolitan Railway.
You gotta love it. Cool.
But rather than, they didn't obviously dig the tube line, what they did is they covered it over, they culverted it. You'll see quite a few bits like that, such as in Farringdon and places like that. But here, when they designed it, that facade was built right from the start, they decided that the easiest thing to do was to put a facade in front. An early example of facadism, although it's different because in fact it is just a facade. There was never any building behind it, ever. Now why is that there? Why have they not done like they've done over here, the Fulton Mews? They've obviously...
Ooh, more...
Yes, more cats. As you can see, this is also where the train lines run through. Why did they not do the same? There, they could have had they could have had a house. They could have had another mews. Now the reason for that is because in the early days, before electrification, there needed to be an open air area every now and then where the train drivers could literally let off steam. And they'd vent all the smoke and the condensation that had accumulated whilst they were in the tunnels. So that facade, which is 1.5 metres thick, it doesn't look that thick from here, hides that noisy steam letting from the general public. There was never a house there to begin with, and most people living on that street, well, probably not, probably I do know, but A lot of them, probably.
What about the neighbours to the left and right? That
Yeah,
must have been most unpleasant.
Well, I don't know. I quite like trains, so I'd find that quite exciting.
Well, okay.
It's so, and the reason why they haven't built up since then, because obviously they don't need to let off steam anymore, is because that facade is listed, and that whole area is listed as an example of old sort of railway
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. It's Grade 2 listed since 1975. So in an extraordinary turn of events, it's a fake facade that is listed rather than used as a ploy to pretend that they're still keeping the listed building behind the facade. So number 30 over there, the lovely Golden Lion, that used to be where Wilkie Collins used to live, the old friend of Boz, of Charles Dickens. A really interesting character. A great novelist, of course, in his own right, and a playwright, and he's most famous for his 1859 thriller, The Woman in White. Over here we have the Peruvian embassy, Peru being quite close to Paddington. Isn't that cool? And just over here we have the Lao embassy. We saw the Uruguayan one just a moment ago. Right, so as we can see, this is now number 38. There's quite a lot of fascinating people who have lived here. You'll see the blue plaque up there on the wall. It says there that the house and studio of John Linnell, 1792 to 1882, painter, and later occupied by Camille Silvy, 1834 to 1910, photographer. John Linnell was, he really competed in the 1800s alongside Constable as the eminent English landscape artist. And you can see on your screen now his wonderful painting from 1860 called Wheat. As for Camille Silvy, he was the photographer to the stars under royalty in the 1860s. Obviously, photography was quite in its infancy. A few of his photos are on the screen now, including his carte de visite with the 38 Porchester Terrace address clearly visible. Now let's just have a quick look at number 3 Porchester Terrace. And this amazing house with this amazing tree next to it is a formidable husband and wife duo lived here. This is where John Claudius Loudon lived here until he died, aged 60 in 1843. He was a botanist and a garden designer. I'm pretty sure that could be from 1843 quite easily. He was a botanist and a garden designer, and we have him to thank for the word arboretum, to refer to a collection of plants and trees used for study. It was he who decided to use that word, taken from the Latin, of course.
That is so cool.
But it is possibly his much more famous wife, Jane Loudon, who also, of course, lived here. She is arguably the English language's first ever science fiction writer. And she was also a great horticulturist. Her trilogy, The Mummy, A Tale of the 22nd Century, is widely considered to be the very first science fiction novel in the UK. And because it was written in 1827, it is no longer under copyright laws, and you can download it for free from the link in the description. She did write lots of other books as well about landscape design and much, much more. And here we are, we're now on a corner of Leinster Terrace. That was the street that had that interesting facade earlier on, and Bayswater Road, where we started the episode. This is actually where we're going to be ending the episode. There we see Sir James Barrie, novelist and dramatist, lived here, 1860 to 1937. And most of you will know him, of course, as J.M. Barrie, because it was he who penned the very famous story of Peter Pan, and he invented the name Wendy, incidentally. Now, Peter Pan, or The Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up, was written by Barrie initially as a stage play in 1904 and then as a highly successful novel in 1911. And it tells the story of Peter Pan, Wendy, Tinker Bell and their adventures in Neverland. Just 1 year later, in 1912, Barrie commissioned sculptor Sir George Frampton to make a statue of Peter Pan, which to this day is just over the road there in Kensington Gardens. You'll see it on your screen now, but we'll visit it properly in our Hyde Park episodes when we get to H. The story was, of course, then turned into a famous Walt Disney animated movie in 1953. Michael Jackson named his ranch after Neverland and was said to suffer from Peter Pan syndrome, supposedly not wishing to grow up. In fact, J.M. Barrie's own relationship with children has in the past come up to question, as indeed has happened with Michael Jackson. However, no one has said that he ever behaved inappropriately, and people suggest that J.M. Barrie was also someone who didn't really want to grow up and felt very childish himself. Princess Margaret, the late Queen's also late sister, was a huge fan, and Barrie would tell her stories. He had a really interesting life. Yeah, he was involved in lots of different things, and he even had his own cricket team, which he called Allah Akbar, because he actually misunderstood what that meant. He thought that meant God help us, because they were not a very good cricket team, but of course it means God is great. And lots of famous people used to play cricket with him in the team that he used to run. And pretty much all the great literary figures of the day played in this team, from Arthur Conan Doyle to Jerome K. Jerome, from A.A. Milne to P.G. Wodehouse, and even the son of Alfred Lord Tennyson. Now, you can read most of Barrie's books for free online, of course, but my favourite is his 1890 work, My Lady Nicotine, A Study in Smoke, which is a hilarious story about the history of tobacco and the author's relationship with it. Links to read both Peter Pan and these other books for free are in the description below. You can also get free audio versions of Peter and Wendy, also in the description. But there you go. I mean, as I said, there's the statue's just over there in Kensington Gardens, but this is where we are going to close this episode. We have basically done sort of like half of the Bayswater area. In the next episode, we're going to be moving to that little bit above Bayswater that's sort of like near Royal Oak. It hasn't really got a proper name. It's not actually technically part of Bayswater, but it's that little triangle bit underneath the Westway. But we're also going to be seeing a lot more about Bayswater and Porchester Spa and lots of other things. Anyway, you'll see now in the outro some of the things that we'll be talking about. But for this episode, we must say, till next time, bye! Next time on Love Your London, we'll be talking about a hotel that was flooded by Jazz Coleman from Killing Joke, and another hotel that hosted a legendary Beatles party. A pub where the expressions "one for the road" and "falling off the wagon" were probably coined. Plus, we'll be talking about Greg and Craig Sam's microbiotic restaurant Seed, frequented by the likes of John Lennon, Yoko Ono and Mark Bolan. We'll visit a location famous for both Monty Python and drag queens, as well as the place that released the very first British punk record. Plus, we'll be hunting for bargain vinyl, eating in a very odd cafe, and much more. Sounds like it's going to be another long one. Till next time.
From Acton Town to Wimbledon, from Brixton to beyond. Love your London. Have a banana.